They say love finds you when you least expect it. That's a comforting thought. Romantic even. But what if it's not entirely true? What if the real reason the man of your dreams hasn't appeared yet? Isn't fate playing hide and seek, but something deeper? Something inside you still locked, waiting to awaken. See, most people believe love is a game of chance. You bump into someone in the produce aisle. You catch a stranger's eye across the coffee shop. You swipe right and hope the algorithm gets it right this time. But luck isn't the whole picture, because love isn't luck, it's alignment. And alignment starts here, with you. Knowing yourself isn't a cliche. It's the foundation of every lasting connection you'll ever have. Because until you understand who you are, you can't possibly recognize who truly fits you. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That one line explains why so many people keep attracting the same kind of relationship again and again. Different faces, same patterns. You meet someone new, it feels exciting, even magical. But a few months later, it collapses into the same confusion, the same heartbreak, the same feeling of, why does this keep happening to me? The truth is simple but not easy. You can't attract the right person if you're not yet the right person for yourself. Most people enter relationships with only a vague idea of what they want. They might say, "I just want someone kind," or "someone who makes me laugh." But few ever sit down and ask themselves, what does love really mean to me? What can I give, not just what do I want to receive? What are my deepest values and how do they show up in love? Without that clarity, your dating life becomes a mirror of your confusion. You'll keep meeting versions of your own uncertainty, partners who reflect back the same patterns you haven't yet healed. So knowing yourself means going beyond the surface. It's not about your favorite foods, your hobbies, or your job title. That's surface-level identity. Deep knowing is about values, the principles you will not compromise on. It's about emotional needs, the ways you must feel loved, respected, and safe. It's about true desires, what you really want, not what others told you to want. When you understand these things, something shifts. You stop mistaking chemistry for compatibility. You stop chasing people who look right but feel wrong. You stop confusing effort with consistency or charm with depth. This is where self-awareness becomes magnetic, not in the flashy way that demands attention, but in the quiet way that draws in what is right for you. It's that grounded energy that says, "I know what I bring to the table, and I'm not afraid to eat alone." That's self-love in action. And self-love isn't arrogance. It's not ego. It's wholeness. It's a calm inner knowing that says, "I am complete as I am." Carl Jung also said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Terrifying. Because it means facing everything. The flaws, the wounds, the parts you'd rather hide. But when you do, when you truly accept yourself, something miraculous happens. You stop needing anyone else to fill the gaps. And when you stop seeking completion outside yourself, you create space for someone who meets you as a whole person, not as a rescuer. Because love that starts from need ends in imbalance. But love that starts from wholeness builds harmony. Let's talk about the trap of neediness. Neediness isn't just unattractive. It's repellent to the kind of love you actually want. When your self-worth depends on someone else's attention, you give away your power without realizing it. You start compromising your boundaries, overlooking red flags, trying to earn love instead of allowing it to meet you. But when you are rooted in self-knowledge and self-respect, you shift. You no longer chase people to prove your worth. You no longer settle for attention that feels temporary. You can walk away when something doesn't align. Not from coldness, but from clarity. You understand that leaving the wrong thing creates space for the right one. Knowing yourself isn't theory. It's practice. Here are ways to begin. 1. Identify your non-negotiables. Write down the values you will never compromise on. Honesty, respect, emotional availability. When you define them, you'll recognize quickly when they're missing. 2. Define your emotional language. How do you best give and receive love? Through words of affirmation? Through quality time? Acts of service? Touch? Gifts? Understanding your love language helps you communicate clearly. No more guessing games. 3. Reflect on your past relationships. What patterns keep showing up? What qualities first drew you in? And how did they help or hurt you in the long run? This isn't about blame. It's about insight. 4. Separate your true desires from conditioning. Are your goals truly yours, or are they inherited from culture, family, or fear? Question every should in your mind. You should be married by now. You should want a certain type of man. You should play small to be liked. No, challenge those ideas. 5. Create a self-connection ritual. Something small that brings you home to yourself daily. Journaling, a quiet walk, meditation. Moments where you check in with yourself, the same way you would with someone you love. Because you are someone you love. If you skip this inner work, here's what tends to happen. You meet someone, there's a spark. You build your life around them too quickly. And months later you realize they don't actually fit you. You were in love with the idea of them, not the reality. But when you truly know yourself, dating becomes easier, even peaceful. You spot misalignment early. You communicate your needs without fear. You no longer cling to temporary attention because you're anchored in lasting alignment. Think of your inner world as a mirror. The energy you carry, your beliefs, your expectations, your standards, all reflect outward. If you're unclear, you attract unclear. If you're grounded, you attract grounded. If you're self-aware, you attract someone who's also done the work. That's why self-knowledge isn't just step 1. It's the foundation everything else rests on. Sometimes the process of self-discovery feels uncomfortable. You'll uncover fears you didn't know you had, wounds you thought were healed, beliefs that were silently limiting you. But as you face them, you'll also uncover your hidden strength, your true desires, your deepest peace. And here's the paradox. The more you enjoy your own company, the more magnetic you become. Because love grows where peace lives. And when you stop searching from a place of lack, the right man notices. Not because you're chasing him, but because your presence feels different. It feels grounded. It feels safe. It feels real. Before the man of your dreams can find you, you have to find you. Not the version shaped to please others. Not the version trying to appear perfect, but the real you. The one who knows her worth without needing to prove it. And when you stand in that truth, you don't just open the door for love. You create an invitation for a partner who meets you where you already are. Whole, steady, and ready. That's where the true story begins. You've done the inner work. You've started to know yourself, your values, your needs, your desires. You've looked in the mirror without flinching. That's the foundation. But now comes the test. The moment when all that self-knowledge meets the world. The moment when you must be who you are. Fully, freely, unapologetically. That's what authenticity really means. People often say, just be yourself. It sounds simple. But in love, it's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. Because authenticity asks for courage. It asks you to show up without the mask. It asks you to risk being seen and possibly rejected for your real self. From the time we were young, most of us learned how to perform. We were taught to say the right thing, act the right way, and hide the parts that others didn't approve of. We learned that being liked often meant being smaller, that to be accepted, we had to silence our truth. Maybe you learned to stay quiet so you wouldn't rock the boat. Maybe you learned to smile even when you didn't agree. Maybe you learned to hide your feelings because they made others uncomfortable. Somewhere along the way, you became a performer in your own life. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." Think about that. Not the obligation, the privilege. Becoming yourself is not automatic. It's earned through awareness and honesty. When you live authentically, you stop seeking validation through performance. You stop molding yourself into who you think others want you to be. You start aligning your actions with your truth. And in love, that alignment is everything. Because no relationship can be truly intimate if it's built on pretense. When you date from performance, you attract from illusion. You might get attention, even affection, but it won't last. Sooner or later, the mask cracks and the truth comes through. And if the real you hasn't been there from the start, the connection collapses under its own weight. Authenticity is alignment between your words, your emotions, and your actions. It's not about oversharing or exposing every wound. It's about consistency. Who you are privately matches who you are publicly. It's about no longer chasing approval. No longer shrinking your truth to make someone else comfortable, and no longer pretending to want less than what your soul truly desires. That's where vulnerability enters the picture. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's the courage to say, "This is who I am, the light and the shadow, and I trust that the right person will stay." Jung understood this perfectly. He said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." And he was right. We hide behind busyness, sarcasm, or perfection, anything to avoid being truly seen. But here's the paradox. The mask that keeps you safe from rejection also keeps you from being truly loved. Because if you never show who you are, no one can ever love the real you. Pretending may get you into a relationship, but it will be one you constantly have to maintain. You'll say yes when you mean no. You'll agree to things that don't sit right with your spirit. You'll silence your truth just to keep the peace. That isn't love. That's survival. And love that requires you to betray yourself isn't love at all. So what does authenticity look like in practice? It looks like this. 1. Speak your truth without apology. If something matters to you, say it. If something hurts you, express it calmly. Honesty isn't confrontation, it's communication. 2. Share what's real, not just what's polished. It's okay to say, "I'm nervous," or "I've had a hard week." Those little moments of honesty build connection, because they're human. 3. Stay rooted in your values. Never compromise your core beliefs for short-term approval. Authenticity isn't about pleasing others, it's about living in integrity. 4. Let your personality shine. If you're quirky, let it show. If you're passionate, speak with fire. The right person will be drawn to your real energy, not the version you fake. And here's something beautiful that happens when you drop the mask. You feel lighter. You stop performing. You stop rehearsing your every move. You just are. That ease is magnetic. People feel it before you say a word. It's the quiet confidence of someone who's comfortable in her own skin. But authenticity also requires resilience. Because when you start showing up as yourself, not everyone will like it. Some will misunderstand you. Some will drift away. And that's okay. They're not your people. Their exit is a gift, clearing space for those who will love the real you. Because authenticity is a filter. It naturally attracts what's meant for you and repels what isn't. Now, let's talk about the difference between attraction and connection. It's easy to attract attention. Looks, charm, social media, those things draw eyes. But attraction isn't connection. Connection happens when two authentic selves meet, without pretense, without strategy, without fear. That kind of connection is rare, and that's exactly why it's worth waiting for. Would you rather be loved for a version of yourself that's easy to digest, or for your full, unfiltered truth? The first is conditional love. The second is freedom. Jung often spoke of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we hide, deny, or reject. He believed true wholeness comes from integrating the shadow, not pretending it doesn't exist. In love, that means owning all of you. The confident parts and the insecure ones. The calm and the fiery. The dreams you're proud of and the fears you're still working through. Because when you own your shadow, you stop fearing that someone else will find it. You've already found it and embraced it. And once you've accepted your shadow, rejection loses its sting. Because you're no longer seeking approval, you're sharing presence. Here's the truth. The right man will recognize that kind of realness instantly. In a world full of performances, authenticity feels like fresh air. He'll trust you faster. He'll open up more easily. And together you'll create something deep, not built on image but on soul. But authenticity also asks for one last act of courage, letting go of control. When you're real, you accept that not everyone will choose you. And that's fine, because you'd rather be chosen for who you are than tolerated for who you pretend to be. Ironically, the less you try to control how others see you, the more they respect you. Because nothing is more captivating than self-respect. Being authentic is risky, but so is love. And in truth, they're the same risk. The willingness to be seen. When you show up without the mask, you create space for a kind of connection that can't be manufactured. You stop attracting men who love the act, and you start attracting men who love the truth. You're not just drawing in a man, you're drawing in the man. The one who looks at you, unfiltered, and says, "Yes, you." And once you find that kind of connection, something sacred begins. Because the moment you start being real, life itself begins to mirror your authenticity. But there's one more thing that protects this newfound truth. Something invisible yet essential. Boundaries. Boundaries are where self-love becomes visible. They are the quiet lines that protect your peace, your time, your energy, and your heart. Without them, even the strongest inner work begins to leak. Think of your life like a beautiful home. Your values are the foundation. Your authenticity is the furniture, the way each room expresses your truth. But your boundaries? They're the doors and locks. Without them, anyone can walk in, rearrange the furniture, and leave a mess behind. Many women resist boundaries because they fear being too much, too demanding, or hard to love. But the only people who are threatened by your boundaries are the ones who intended to overstep them. Healthy people feel relieved by clarity. They know where they stand. They know how to love you well. Let's clear a common confusion. Boundaries are not walls. Walls block everyone out. Boundaries let the right people in, while keeping the wrong behaviors out. A boundary isn't a punishment. It's an instruction manual for how to treat you. Here's the shift that changes everything. Boundaries are not about controlling another person. They're about managing your own participation. You can't force someone to be respectful, honest, or consistent, but you can choose how you respond when they aren't. Lack of boundaries breeds chaos. You say yes when you mean no. You overgive and then feel empty. You tolerate patterns you hope will just get better. You shrink to keep the peace and lose yourself in the process. Over time, resentment grows, not only toward others, but toward yourself for abandoning your own standards. So what do healthy boundaries look like in love? Simple, clear, kind, firm. Time boundaries. I can't talk during work hours, but I'm free after 6. This says your time matters. It teaches others to meet you where you truly are. Emotional boundaries. I'm open to this conversation, and I need us to speak respectfully. This preserves dignity, yours and his, while still moving toward connection. Pacing boundaries. I'm not comfortable with physical intimacy until we know each other better. This protects your nervous system and allows trust to form at a sustainable speed. Value boundaries. Loyalty is non-negotiable for me. This name's a pillar. It prevents confusion before it begins. Notice the tone. Boundaries don't require anger. They require clarity. You can be warm and unwavering at the same time. A simple script helps when emotions run high. Try the 3-step frame. 1. Name the behavior. When plans are canceled last minute. 2. Name the impact. Or, I feel like my time isn't valued. 3. Name the need. Going forward, I need more notice if plans are changing. No drama, no character attacks, just truth with direction. When you set a boundary, you activate a powerful filter. Watch what happens next. A misaligned man will push back, minimize, guilt trip, bargain, or go silent. A healthy man will adjust, ask questions, and lean in. Boundaries reveal character with stunning speed. They save you months of confusion. Here's a deeper layer. Your body keeps the score. Before your mind crafts sentences, your body often knows when a line is being crossed. Tight chest, knotted stomach, sudden fatigue. That's your nervous system whispering, something here isn't safe. Trust that signal. It is wisdom, not weakness. To honor that wisdom, give yourself a pause. You don't owe anyone an instant answer. Let me think about that and get back to you. This single sentence can rescue you from 100 self-betrayals. Common boundary traps to avoid. The invisible boundary, expecting someone to honor a rule you never expressed. If it matters, speak it. The porous boundary, stating a limit, then repeatedly moving it to keep someone comfortable. Every time you weaken a boundary, you weaken trust, especially your trust in yourself. The reactive boundary, setting a rule only in anger. Boundaries set calmly are stronger because they're grounded in principle, not adrenaline. The bargaining boundary, enforcing a limit, then offering exceptions to avoid discomfort. Kindness without consistency confuses people. Be kind and consistent. If holding a boundary feels scary, remember this truth. You're not afraid of losing them. You're afraid of losing the fantasy, the future you built in your mind. But the only thing you ever truly lose by honoring your limits is what was never aligned. with you in the first place. Bring Jung's wisdom into the room. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Boundaries are the natural expression of that acceptance. When you value yourself, you naturally refuse what devalues you. Let's practice with real-world moments. He texts only late at night. Boundary. I enjoy getting to know you. I'm not available for late-night messaging. Let's talk earlier in the evening. Result, he adapts or disappears. Clarity either way. He avoids defining the relationship. Boundary. I'm looking for a committed partnership. If that's not where you are, I'll step back so we don't waste each other's time. Result, you protect your future, not your fears. He jokes in ways that sting. Boundary. Humor is great, and I don't receive comments like that well. Please don't joke about me in that way. Result. Respect becomes the standard. He resurfaces after going silent. Boundary. Consistency is important to me. If communication drops for weeks, I won't continue. Result. Your peace becomes non-negotiable. Boundaries are a love language to yourself. They say, I take my heart seriously. And here's the secret. The right man finds this deeply attractive. Why? Because boundaries signal self-respect, and self-respect signals emotional maturity. Mature men want partnership, not permission to misbehave. If setting limits brings up guilt, flip the frame. You're not rejecting a person. You're rejecting a pattern. You're not punishing anyone. You're protecting what is sacred. Small daily reps build boundary strength. Wait before replying to pressure texts. Decline invitations that drain you. Name your needs early, not after resentment piles up. End conversations when they turn unkind. I'm going to pause here and continue when we're both calm. Each time you honor a line, your nervous system learns a new lesson. I can trust myself. That is the real prize. Not whether someone stays, but whether you stayed loyal to you. Expect the test. The moment you raise your standards, life often sends a familiar temptation dressed in a new coat. It isn't a sign you're failing. It's a sign your clarity is working. Pass the test by doing what the healed version of you would do, not what the hurried version would choose. There's beauty on the other side of a boundary. Conversations grow cleaner. Dates become calmer. Silence stops feeling scary. You no longer grip what doesn't want to stay. You move from chasing to choosing. And with choosing comes a new posture, a steadiness that cannot be faked. This steadiness has a name, confidence. Not the loud kind that performs, but the quiet kind that lasts. The kind that says, I trust myself, before, during, and after love. That is the energy that draws the right man closer. Not because you demand him, but because your life already stands on solid ground. Confidence. It's one of the most misunderstood qualities in love. People think confidence means being bold, loud, fearless, always knowing exactly what to say, always in control. But that's not real confidence. That's performance. Real confidence is quiet. It's grounded. It's the peace that comes from knowing who you are and trusting yourself, even when no one else does. Carl Jung said, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. Confidence is that choice, the daily decision to trust yourself in motion. Not because life is easy, but because you know you can handle what comes. Fake confidence wears a mask. It hides insecurity behind attention, validation, and noise. It tries to look strong instead of feeling strong. It shouts to be heard because silence feels unsafe. But authentic confidence doesn't need to shout. It's felt in the way you walk into a room without rushing to prove your worth. In the way you hold eye contact without apology. In the way you can stand alone without feeling lonely. Confidence is not about pretending to be fearless. It's about showing up even when you're afraid. It's the steady whisper inside that says, I've got this, even when everything feels uncertain. That's the kind of energy that draws the right man. Because men aren't drawn to perfection. They're drawn to peace. They're drawn to a woman who knows she's enough, whether someone is watching or not. When you trust yourself, you stop chasing approval. You stop bending to fit into small places. You stop settling for crumbs and calling it love. You stop performing just to be chosen. Because now you know, you get to choose too. Confidence doesn't mean you never doubt. It means you don't let doubt drive the car anymore. You feel it, you acknowledge it, but you keep moving forward. Here's the difference between arrogance and true confidence. Arrogance says, I'm better than you. Confidence says, I'm enough as I am. Arrogance needs comparison. Confidence needs truth. Arrogance builds walls to hide weakness. Confidence builds bridges because it's not afraid of being seen. The man of your dreams won't be drawn to arrogance. He'll be drawn to grace, to calm, to a quiet assurance that says, I don't need to compete because I already know who I am. So how do you build this quiet kind of confidence? 1. Self-awareness. You can't trust yourself if you don't know yourself. Confidence grows from self-honesty. What are your strengths? What are your fears? What do you tend to run from? What keeps repeating in your story? The more you understand your patterns, the more peace you bring to your choices. 2. Celebrate small wins. Confidence isn't built in giant leaps. It's built in everyday moments. You spoke up for yourself today? That's confidence. You chose rest instead of people-pleasing? That's confidence. You said no without guilt? That's confidence. Stack enough small wins and your self-trust becomes unshakable. 3. Trust your intuition. Your inner voice is your compass. It won't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. It nudges you when something feels off. It warms you when something's right. The more you listen, the clearer it becomes. 4. Face your fears. Confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward despite fear. Every time you do something that scares you, having the tough conversation, walking away from inconsistency, trying again after heartbreak, you expand your capacity. 5. Practice self-compassion. You'll make mistakes. You'll fall back into old habits sometimes. That doesn't mean you've failed. Be kind to yourself in those moments. Confidence doesn't come from perfection. It comes from recovery. Every time you forgive yourself and keep going, your strength deepens. Confidence changes everything about the way you love. When you carry real confidence, you stop negotiating your worth. You stop chasing people who treat you like an option. You stop apologizing for your standards. You communicate directly. You express needs clearly. You're not afraid of silence or space because you know your peace is not negotiable. You understand that saying no doesn't make you difficult. It makes you discerning. In dating, confidence is the quiet power that says, I want connection, but I don't need it to define me. That energy is magnetic. It feels different. It feels stable. And stability is irresistible to someone who's also grounded. Carl Jung's idea of individuation, the process of becoming whole, is the root of confidence. He said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Confidence comes from that process, not from pretending you're perfect, but from meeting your fears, your insecurities, your shadows, and walking through them until they lose their power. Because when you face what you once ran from, you realize you're far stronger than you thought. Here's something most people don't tell you. Confidence isn't constant. It ebbs and flows. There will be days you feel radiant and unstoppable, and days where the old doubts creep back in. That's okay. Confidence is a relationship, one you keep nurturing. It grows when you keep choosing yourself, especially on the days when it's hardest. The trap many fall into is seeking validation to feel confident. Likes, attention, compliments, matches, all of it gives a quick rush. But external validation is like sugar, sweet for a moment, followed by a crash. It can't sustain you. Real confidence is built internally, quietly, privately, repeatedly. So when the world goes silent, you still know who you are. You still know what you deserve. You still know how to stand tall in your truth. And that's the kind of confidence the right man recognizes instantly. Because confidence rooted in peace creates safety, not competition. When you embody that, you stop chasing love. Love starts finding you. Because confidence changes your energy. And energy changes everything. The right man will see it in your presence, not in your appearance, not in your words, but in that calm certainty that says, I know who I am, and I trust the timing of my life. That trust, that unshakable belief in your worth, opens the door to the next stage of this journey. Because now that you're grounded in self-awareness, authenticity, boundaries, and confidence, it's time to open your heart to something the world rarely teaches us how to do. To be open to possibilities. Being open to possibilities. It sounds simple, almost effortless, but in truth, it might be the hardest step of all. because it asks you to loosen your grip on control, to let go of the rigid checklist, and to trust that love may not look the way you imagined it. We live in a world obsessed with certainty. We plan, we schedule, we predict, we analyze. We want to know what's coming next. And in love, that same control shows up as a list. Tall, funny, educated, ambitious, emotionally available, kind. The list feels safe. It feels like protection from disappointment. But sometimes the list becomes a prison. What if the man of your dreams doesn't check every box? What if he surprises you, challenges you, expands you? What if love's real magic lies not in the checklist but in the mystery? Carl Jung said, "We cannot change anything until we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses." Being open means accepting that love might come in unexpected packaging. It might not arrive on your timeline or through the person you pictured. And yet it might be everything your soul has been preparing for. Openness doesn't mean lowering your standards. It means releasing your attachment to outcomes. It means saying, "I know what I need, but I'm willing to be surprised by how it arrives." The danger of rigidity is subtle. You might dismiss someone because they don't fit your image of the one. You might overlook emotional depth because his hobbies differ from yours. You might say no to connection because it didn't begin with sparks or drama. And sometimes in holding out for the perfect picture, you miss the real masterpiece. The truth is, love rarely looks like the movies. It often starts quietly. Two people meeting, unsure at first, then discovering something deep beneath the surface. It grows not from perfection, but from presence. Not from fireworks, but from warmth. So what does being open actually look like? It's curiosity instead of judgment. It's willingness instead of fear. It's saying yes to a coffee you might normally decline. It's asking questions instead of making assumptions. It's letting someone show you who they are, rather than deciding in the first 5 minutes. Because when you approach love with curiosity, you open the door for something extraordinary. Connection based on reality, not fantasy. Jung once said, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another." There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. That means there's no single formula for love. What works for one couple might suffocate another. The perfect partner for you isn't the one who fits everyone's ideal. It's the one whose soul aligns with yours. But to find that, you must first clear space inside yourself. You can't invite in something new while clinging to old fears, old expectations, or old wounds. You have to make room for surprise. Try asking yourself, what expectations might be blocking me from seeing what's truly in front of me? Am I rejecting possibilities because they don't match my fantasy? Am I confusing familiarity with compatibility? Being open doesn't mean being naive. You still hold your boundaries, your values, your standards. But within those, you allow flexibility. You give grace for differences. You recognize that love often grows in the space between opposites, structure and freedom, similarity and contrast, logic and feeling. Sometimes the person who feels different from your type is the one who finally feels right. Because they don't trigger your patterns, they heal them. Maybe he's not the loud extrovert you pictured, but he listens deeply. Maybe he doesn't have your dream job, but he has integrity. Maybe he's not from your world, but he opens your eyes to new ways of being. Love that challenges you to expand, not shrink, is the kind worth keeping. But to allow it, you must surrender control. You must release the idea that love has to appear on your schedule, wearing the outfit your imagination picked out. Surrender is not weakness. It's the deepest form of trust. It says, I've done my part. I'm aligned, I'm ready, and I trust that what's meant for me will recognize me too. That's the paradox of openness. The more you let go, the more life delivers. If you close yourself off, you'll keep circling the same experiences. You'll date the same types, repeat the same lessons, live the same patterns. But when you open, the universe can finally send something new. Someone new. Of course, openness will test your patience. You'll wonder why it's taking so long. You'll question if maybe you missed your chance. But remember this. Nothing that's truly meant for you can pass you by. It might be delayed, but it will never be denied. Your task is not to hunt for love, it's to stay aligned. to keep your heart open and to keep choosing faith over fear. Because being open doesn't just attract a partner, it attracts experiences, opportunities, friendships, and lessons that shape you into someone even more ready for love. The more you expand your perspective, the more love has room to find you. And when openness meets self-awareness, authenticity, boundaries, and confidence, something remarkable happens. You become magnetic, not by force, but by flow. Your energy says, I am whole, I am clear, I am open. And that energy is irresistible. Because you're not grasping, you're not performing, you're not waiting in fear, you're allowing. Jung said, the most difficult thing is to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you someone else. Being open means trusting that your true self is enough. It means believing that when you stay authentic, love will meet you there, even if it takes a form you never saw coming. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this: a love that feels calm, not chaotic. A connection that grows slowly, naturally, deeply. A man who sees you, not just your beauty, but your truth. No games, no masks, no pretending. That love doesn't arrive because you hunted it down. It arrives because you created space for it. So stay open. Stay curious. Let life surprise you. Because when you combine clarity with openness, alignment with surrender, you stop chasing love, and love starts chasing you. And when that happens, something shifts forever. You move from hoping love will find you to knowing it can't miss you. Now that your heart is open and your spirit aligned, it's time for the final piece, the art of integration. How to live these truths every day so that love not only finds you, but stays, grows, and deepens, not by luck, but by alignment. You've come this far. You've learned to know yourself, to be authentic, to set healthy boundaries, to stand in confidence, and to stay open to possibility. These 5 keys are powerful on their own, but together, they transform everything. They turn love from a guessing game into a mirror of alignment. They shift your focus from waiting for the right person to becoming the right person. But knowledge alone isn't enough. Understanding is just the seed. Living it, that's where it takes root. That's where transformation begins. Carl Jung taught that wholeness comes through integration, bringing the conscious and unconscious parts of yourself into harmony. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Integration means taking what you now know and living it, day by day, choice by choice, until it becomes part of who you are. So let's talk about how to weave these truths into your daily life. Not as a performance, but as a rhythm. Morning alignment. Start your day with yourself before you give your energy to the world. Spend 5 quiet minutes checking in. Ask, what matters to me today? What do I need to feel grounded? Remind yourself of your values, honesty, peace, respect, love, whatever your core truths are. Set a small intention. Today I will be authentic. Or today I will protect my peace. That single moment of reflection centers you. It signals to your mind and heart, I'm leading my day, not reacting to it. Boundaries in action. Throughout the day, your boundaries will be tested in small ways, not to punish you, but to strengthen you. Maybe someone interrupts your focus. Maybe someone pressures you to say yes when your body says no. These are your practice moments. Pause. Breathe. Remember, protecting your peace is an act of self-love, not selfishness. Every time you honor a boundary, you reinforce your own worth. Confidence in motion. Confidence isn't loud. It's consistent. It's the way you keep your promises to yourself. If you said you'd take a walk, take it. If you said you'd speak your truth, speak it. When you follow through, even on small things, you tell your subconscious, I can trust me. That inner trust builds quiet strength. And quiet strength is magnetic. Openness in the everyday. Stay curious. Say hello to the stranger who smiles at you. Accept the conversation that feels a little unexpected. Try something new. A class, an event, a place that expands your world. Each act of openness widens your energy field. You never know how or where love will find you. Maybe it's not through dating apps or social circles, but through the ripple effect of following your joy. Evening reflection. Before bed, check in again. Ask yourself, did I live in alignment today? What felt good? What felt off? What did I learn about myself? Write it down or just sit with it in silence. This reflection isn't judgment, it's awareness. And awareness is how you stay aligned. But what happens when you stumble? Because you will. You'll have days when you overgive, when you slip into old patterns, when your confidence wavers or your openness feels like risk. That's okay. Growth isn't a straight line. When those moments come, remember Jung's words. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Self-acceptance doesn't mean perfection. It means meeting yourself with compassion, even when you fall. You can start again at any moment. You can realign in one deep breath. Grace is the bridge between who you were and who you're becoming. Here's the truth. Attraction isn't just physical, it's energetic. It's the invisible language your spirit speaks before you even say a word. When your energy carries self-respect, authenticity, confidence, and openness, the world responds differently. The right people are drawn in. The wrong ones quietly drift away. You no longer have to chase. You attract by being aligned. And when the right man crosses your path, he'll feel that alignment immediately. Not because you're performing, not because you're trying to impress him, but because your energy says, I know who I am. And that kind of energy feels like peace. That's what healthy love is. Not intensity, not anxiety, but peace. A deep exhale. A connection that feels calm, not chaotic. Two people who choose each other freely because they're both whole on their own. That's what all this work has been for. Not just to find love, but to create the inner conditions where love can thrive.